Yes, hello, welcome. It is the Sunday rub for McDonald's and Ream Hot Water. Triple M rocks footy. Looking forward to a big day of action. We'll be at Blundstone Arena for the North Melbourne North Melbourne taking on the Cats, I should say. As we'll say a big hello to everyone, and we look around the room here. We are, of course, missing our main man, our spiritual leader, Nathan Browne, for the time being. He'll join us shortly when he comes across from the Sunday Footy Show, but our number one leader.
When has Browny ever been a leader?
The spiritual leader. The spiritual leader. Duck, you still are our leader. Don't worry about that.
Horse to water, Browny.
Welcome to you, Duck. Welcome.
He'd get himself there, though. He'd get himself to the water.
Well, absolutely. No, good to be here. We're in the studio today. We don't hide away from that. But looking forward to the game. We've had an interesting round already, so I think there's a little bit to happen just yet. Big game tonight as well, and then obviously tomorrow. Still
plenty of football to be had. Everyone's looking fresh as we welcome Ross Lyon. G'day, Rossi.
G'day, Joey. We're always fresh here on the Sunday Rub.
Very good. And so as we said, no Brownie at the moment. Now, you've done a good job because you got rid of Howie. You weren't happy with Howie. Now it looks like you've got rid of Jay-Z already, Rossi, because filling in for Jay-Z today, you've been able to shove him aside. We've got Tommy Browne. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks, Joey. Got the call up on Friday. Had a day off yesterday, so I'm super fresh. True to form, Dusty was back at Richmond, so I missed that story. But I'm fresh today, so I've got lots of stories to bring you today, Joey, including a little controversy regarding an integrity matter.
Really?
As well.
Looking forward to that. You've always got plenty of news. So you missed out on the Dusty story.
Hang on. Excluding the present company
Correct.
That story. Good.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, we think so.
No, well, it could involve.
It could involve us.
Duck and the quiz. Anyway, we'll get to
let's
that.
keep an eye on that one. We'll get to that.
Which quiz?
Yes, no, don't worry. Look at Duckies.
Last week's.
That's all
the
right.
shackles are up on the
Last
duck.
week's quiz. What about it?
We'll get there.
Yeah, because I had the answer right.
Well, do you want to get into it? The news one.
I'm happy to get in there.
Just say there's some tension already.
The nostrils are flaring.
Duck wasn't happy last week. Wasn't happy according to several sources during the week following the Sunday Rub quiz last week. I'll get to the audio shortly, but Duck reckoned he had the correct answer, and this is what transpired.
Sydney.
But it was that at that end.
Have 3 captains for the 2022 season. Can you name them?
Lele.
That was Duck.
Parker.
No.
Parker is.
Nope.
No, it is Dane Rampy,
Yes.
Callum Mills,
Yes.
and Josh Kennedy.
Yes, it is, Joey. Away to a flyer.
I don't reckon Josh. No, you've got that. I'm telling you now, Josh Kennedy. Parker is still.
I thought they were only Mills.
Now, the 45-person integrity team at the AFL, lots of people involved in this, Joey, and I believe last week's quiz is null and void because Luke Parker is a captain. That was correct.
What?
Duck was correct.
Null and void. What, so I don't get the win.
Well, I'm not an adjudicator. I'm just here to bring you the news. But I think under the rules, the Triple M rules, the terms and conditions, I reckon
because
Duck
they
takes
cut me
the win.
off as soon as I said Parker, and I was about to reel off the other two. And thank you,
So
Tom.
you're taking the win off me, Tom.
I was-
You come in and take the win off me.
It's-
So hang on, have they got 4 captains or we're excluding?
No,
three.
Josh Kennedy was incorrect.
Three.
Josh Kennedy had been replaced by the other 3.
I think we should annul that result.
I totally
and
Well, I
based
still
on
won by
that,
about 8 points
No,
last
you
week.
didn't. No, because that flattened my confidence after
Oh,
that.
you're
Yeah, the rest of the call, I hardly heard from him.
it's a bit like when there's interference at the top of the straight. I just put him off his
I know you're
game.
not allowed to
Ross,
reveal-
that's called laziness.
I know you're not allowed to reveal his sources, but I reckon Duck's probably rung into the integrity unit himself to get this.
He
to
could
get
have
this
raised these
investigation
concerns
started.
with the AFL and the Triple M team, Joey.
What's that hotline called? The whistleblower hotline? I reckon you've rung into that. To
They
get this
spend more
looked at.
time on that
Tom?
than sorting out the 50-metre shebang.
There's more staff
Tom,
doing that.
Tom, without being facetious, this is probably the biggest story you've broken for a while.
Don't worry about the Dusty story.
I've actually got another one coming up.
Geez, you
Duck.
made Duck's day too. He was flat that I beat him last week in that quiz. That's been no.
I'm concerned that you reckon you won by more, but maybe the stewards need to
And
get
didn't you
involved.
puff up after you won, Joe?
Well,
It was Friday.
Duck was put off. I've never seen Duck crumble so quick because it did throw him.
So rather than hiding in Dusty's bins, you've been uncovering this story.
You reckon you got a few tips though, Joe? You need to look at the finishing margin.
Yes.
When you review a race result.
right.
So perhaps you need to do that here, you
I
reckon?
think I won by about 8 lengths, so it wouldn't have mattered if he got Luke Parker. I thought, only I'm happy to be.
I could have put scoreboard pressure on you though.
Very good, but you do have some big news later in the show. We'll take a look at that. We're also going to chat to the hottest player in the competition. You could argue at the moment, Rossi.
Andy Brayshaw.
No, not
Oh,
Andy.
Who?
Who else? Who's the hottest player in the comp?
Alex Pearce. Most
Close.
important.
No, not Alex Pearce. Do you
Sean
know
Darcy.
Jack Higgins.
who's the hottest player in the comp right now?
Hottest, I think Cripps.
Yeah, no, we're going to chat to Tex Walker. Anyway, we got
well,
pretty
close.
close. The last 3 weeks.
What does that say about the comp? Someone kicks 3 goals in a game as a key forward. He's the highest player in the comp. Duck used to kick 10.
Tex. What I've been impressed about with Tex is the amount of ball he's been winning. Don't worry about the goals.
Well, he plays high up, doesn't he?
If you can kick 4 or 5 goals in a game, if you have 8 possessions, I've never rated those types of games. Tex is having 15 plus possessions
And score
involvements and kicking goals. He's doing it all.
Yep.
And
Very
degree
impressive.
of difficulty, like to do it at Ballarat.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
Significant.
no one could hit a target at
I
Ballarat.
put that to Duck. Country Oval, curled it in. Duck, what was your response?
Apparently there was no win there. The kick for Tex, with Tex's ability, that last kick that he had, he said it's not a hard kick to put it where he put it and it went through. Now, it's a hard kick for some because, let's be honest, players at the moment can't kick a drop punt from any part of the ground. They like to kick around the corner, but Tex is a beautiful drop punt kick.
And he described it well, didn't he? He said he had to start at the left post.
Correct.
He knew that
It
the
just
wind would
drifted
bring it,
back.
and it was perfect. He executed it beautifully. So we're going to chat to Tex Walker too, which that was a big win by the Crows. You did that game, Duck. That was
I thought look, going into the game, I thought it was going to be tight. I don't think the Bulldogs are exactly flying. We know that they touched up the Kangaroos, but
Well, they're a real
struggling.
story, aren't they?
Yeah,
as Luke Beveridge said, supply was the issue. Their midfield,
smashed.
And the intercept
intercept marks from the
So
Crows.
the non-competitiveness of their front half, he'll be unconscious.
Which
with
is unbelievable when you think. And I know English was out, and he's a big out. But Norton, for me, and we know that he flies for everything. So to be outmarked as often as they were, because he at least brings it to the ground. Wasn't able to do that yesterday. And the Crows, well, you could give credit where credit's due. This footy side's showing character.
Yeah.
And,
great character. Well, they got
real
slaughtered.
spirit.
Like Cornsey said, they're the worst
Yeah.
list and team in history. So he's eating a little bit of humble pie, but he acknowledges that though, which is lovely. Bit like and Mick ate humble pie on their sort of.
that was good.
So the great men.
They had an incredibly difficult week, by the way, the Bulldogs. We'll get to that in the news segment. Luke Beveridge speaking about that post-game.
Yes,
Yeah.
They did it. They did.
Yeah,
Good.
very
Adelaide.
sad.
They said Adelaide had some difficulties getting over to Ballarat. I heard. What do you know? We know what they were.
Yes,
they said
I
they had some
do.
hiccups. They had some hiccups.
Because I've been doing my research. They were taken to the wrong hotel in Ballarat. You
that
think
what
that would be difficult to do? And then they'll take it into the wrong entrance at the ground.
Oh, so that's what's
Now,
happened.
that's what brought me back to my coaching days. Well, just some advice for you, Nixie. Get your general manager to get the team manager. This used to happen to the Dockers, right? So, where's the entrance? You'll be going interstate. Where's the entrance? Oh, what trip? And so I said, Bondi,
Do a dry
we're an
run.
AFL club. How about we scout it the day before?
Times have changed. They went on the day, though. They flew in on the day.
Well,
Did
what?
they-
Send your bloke the day before.
Or they fly in
no,
the day
they didn't
before?
go
No,
on the
no,
day
no,
because
sorry.
they stayed at the
They
hotel,
did, I'm
Joey.
sorry,
No,
they
you
did.
sleep in hotels.
Sorry,
just
yes.
if you're not in and out. You actually stay in them, Joey.
Sorry, I got
You can
that
store
wrong.
your gear
So
there.
what you
St
do?
Kilda travelled on the day,
So
sorry.
we used to get the team manager to scout the route, contact the bus company. What's the route? What's the gate? They'd drive it. So from that moment on, everything. There's some advice.
Attention to
And
detail.
given- and
Attention
given
to
what-
detail.
And Ross, given what teams have gone through over the last couple of years, I would have thought just the wrong hotel or gone to the wrong gate probably shouldn't throw them as much as we
That's
Like,
right.
let's be honest. Like what all teams have gone through the last 2 years.
How would you have gone the last 2 years, Rossi, with all the pivoting and all the
Oh, it would've-
flexibility? Like, you were pretty, as you said.
He
you
would
were-
have just
I like
anchored
routine.
himself
I like
to a
routine, but you know
penthouse.
what? Adapt and improvise. Heartbreak Hill. Is it Heartbreak Ridge with Clint Eastwood? So adapt and improvise. But, the stand, like to be honest, that stand mark, you can actually get overlap run now. It's changed the whole game. So different times, Joey, we'll move on.
Joey, just anchoring yourself to a penthouse at a hotel in a station. Not that tough to adapt to.
Yeah.
That's right. Hey,
How would Rui have gone with his
no,
routine?
he would have been shocking. It would have been shocking. So that's no, they've done a great job. It was a huge win by Adelaide, as you said. Another team that was full of merit, Rossi, and full of credit was the Fremantle Dockers again.
Awesome.
Just continuing to take on every challenge
We tipped
thrown at
them.
them.
We spoke about their turnover game in order. I think 60% of score source, and that proved to be true. I think Carlton. I was thinking, looking at the ball movement last night, there's a bit of Port Adelaide in them. The chip and control still not much overlap. So they'll get to work on that. But the Dockers structurally, they have a lot of. They have what not many teams have. Brisbane have it. Melbourne, that's big man in front of the ball and behind the ball. So Alex Pearce is almost their most pivotal player. But then in that draft of 16, after we fell off the cliff, Luke Ryan, Doig medalist, Sean Darcy, Doig medalist, Brennan Cox was an All-Australian. He's there. And Griffin Logue, who was the earliest pick, most highly coveted and rated, probably the least performed. But for that back six coming through in the draft, and they got him in front of the ball too, Taberner and Lobb, and then you got Darcy, and their midfield strong. When I broke it down on Classified, I looked at it and went, no, I'll take this midfield over Carlton's with everyone there. So, if they just and Michael Walters to find some form, like he's the missing link. You throw Fife in, I think they've got a good game plan, great players. I think they're well on their way. It's exciting down the track, and they keep building. They can finish top 4, no doubt.
And Fife has to play forward. He has to
I
be
think
centre.
where it's
He has to
going
be centre
now,
forward.
yeah.
Yep.
But there's a little rumour come out of Perth. Maybe onto that. I spoke to someone during Perth. There was just something floating around that he might have went back in for a touch-up. I find that hard to believe, but I don't know. We'll leave Joey alone because he's got an alignment there, but Tommy, you might get
I'll
onto
chase
that.
that one up. I
Because you
hadn't
have
heard
strong
that.
connections in Perth.
I do. Just some management people and all sorts of people
Tell
over
you what,
there.
he looks super fit.
Well, he always looks,
but
he always
he
looks
he
fit,
had
doesn't
the,
he? Nat Fife.
he had
I
the-
didn't see him. Was on the
he's on the
broadcast.
TV.
he had the
He's
the
immaculate.
He had the nice fitted shirt on. I like the fitted shirts, and the veins were popping out. He looked huge.
Duck
So he
had some
couldn't have gone
admiration.
back in.
Duck had some admiration for the rig.
I looked
Thought he was-
straight at the.
Oh, he's immaculate.
Straight at the guns.
You had a big day too, because you did that game
Straight
as
at the
well
guns.
last night.
Yes.
No one you got your
Yep.
going out shirt
He's
on for
flying
today.
back on
You've had a big day
He's
yesterday.
flying back on the red eye. Looks
Well,
immaculate.
looks
Now he's
Immaculate.
ready to go out this
5 hours in
afternoon.
business class.
Well, we finish up a little bit earlier today, so I thought I'd come prepared.
Long weekend.
Just some news out of that game last night. Mackay played basically with his knee strap, so he'll have that scanned. Pitney PCL. That's a blow for Carlton's ruck stocks, isn't it? Because they've got
And a
DeConning
sick-
and Murkov, who's basically like a volleyballer.
I didn't mind what DeConning did when he went in there. Gave him a little bit, even though he got monstered a little bit. I'll hitch my wagon to that kid. But yeah, Pitney, that injury is a classic PCL injury. And my experience in the game, some people recover really quickly from them. Like Adam Goods had a cortisone put into the joint, he played the next week. But there's other people like Cooter had a PCL, and they just don't come back because it creates a lot of instability. Michael Gardner, Ruckman have him. It's a really tricky
Corey
injury.
McKernan.
So we keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, Corey had.
What do you
Corey
make
had
of Harry Mackay? We know that he's obviously going to have a look at the knee, but gee, he didn't give a yelp, did he, last night?
yeah,
Pierce
look,
is a good, as Ross said, Pierce was all over him.
And plays with body.
He's got to learn. I think Harry. He's a Coleman medalist last year. We know that, so we know what he can do, but he's got to learn to perform under a little bit of duress. I mean, he got himself to some contests. He got his hands to some balls. Now, if he has injured a part of his lower body, well, guess what? When the ball hits your hands, you can still mark it. So
It's probably the body language with it a
yeah,
little
a little
bit.
bit of the body language as well. When you're the biggest, strongest forward, irrespective of how you're feeling, you've got to portray a strength, especially
100%.
especially in the air when you're attacking the footy. Now, if you're not marking it, then you're certainly making sure that you're splitting the pack open.
You're spot on because the opposite is true. Like when you run back to the flight or you hit a pack hard, your team grows as they feed off the key forwards, right?
And it was Frederick. Frederick did it. Like there was a few Fremantle players that did it, smaller types,
Right.
that put their body on the line. Ryan did it. Actually, Ryan did it
He's very
against
brave.
Mackay in I think it might have been the last quarter when Carlton were actually coming a little bit. There was a big collision. Ryan just came in, and you know what? You could just tell Ryan wanted that. He wanted the physical contact just that little bit more.
It
when you
ripples
weigh it
through your
all
whole
up-
team.
Yep. When you
And
weigh it
then
up-
you feel like,
Correct.
and then the responsibility go. But the opposite is true. When you see your key forward a little bit off, bothering, not hitting it, it just goes through the
well,
team
you lose
a little
confidence too going to them.
100%. Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
drive the
Duck,
ball.
last night, Walsh went 36, Chera 32, Cripps 32, Doherty 32, Hewitt 30. You don't often see 5 midfielders plus 30 possessions and you lose by 33 points. Are some of those guys accumulating?
Cripps was enormous. Cripps was BOG for me. He nearly put the team. He tried to put the team on his back in that third term, and continued in the last. At the moment, Sam Walsh, we know he's a superstar. I think he had 36 or 38 the week before, but at the moment, he's accumulating.
Well, let's
he's
put
getting a
outcome
lot
on
of the
it.
footy.
35 entries.
Yep.
That's what they had. 35 entries, and the Dockers had like 55,
Yep.
60, whatever it was.
There's some concerns
it's
with the Blues. They're getting numbers, but they're not defending it. When they're all hunting the footy and they're all getting their touches, but when it gets on the outside, they're getting exposed.
they're high handball
Yep.
around, and I heard Vossi say post that we should have taken some yardage. So when high flick around stoppage team, when the pressure comes, kick it forward, take
Yep.
ground position. But they are chipping around a little bit like Port.
Yep.
They are controlling the ball.
If you get those little, and by the way, they shouldn't even be called a mark because they don't even travel the required distance, half of them. But those little chip kicks that a lot of the midfielders get, and it goes on their stat sheet, and everyone gets seduced by stats. And you shouldn't, because you can have a lot of the ball and not have a massive influence.
And amazingly, Harry Mackay, if he doesn't play, he has still never ever played against his twin brother Ben. And they've got Kangaroos next week.
That's a good stat.
So there's another little investigation
Well,
for you.
there's
That's
a
an amazing
conspiracy story there, isn't it? Are they
maybe
the
a
same
little,
person?
is it coincidence or some
Maybe.
conspiracy?
Ross, curly one on the blue. Curly one on the Blues, Ross.
Same person.
Durden,
Oh, mate, I've had a lot of curly ones over the last
Durden,
5 months.
Boyd and Nunes played last night. Do they need to play Dow and Stocker for another 10, 20, 30 games to take the next step? They're not getting a game, those two. Carroll's been injured.
Repeat the three that played. Durden, he's been
Boyd,
going.
Young.
Nunes.
Oh, I think Nunes is the interesting one for me. He brought over St Kilda. He's been in and out of the team. I thought O'Brien was going okay early, but the internal match committee know them better. O'Brien's a big run. I don't know whether Nunes can run like O'Brien and stretch the field and all those things. Look, I'm not really the quality. I'd have to have a bit more look, take it a question without notice and come back to you, Tommy. But they've got some youth in the twos. I do that, like Stocker, Philp, those sort of guys that have got real potential, and you'd like to see them come through at some point.
Got to take a break.
And Dow.
And Dow as well. We've got to take a break. We've got your news coming up, but Tex Walker's waiting for us, so we'll get to him. McDonald's and Ream Hot Water, Triple M rocks footy. Ream Hot Water built tough Aussie conditions when it comes to water heating. Ask your plumber to install a Ream. Nathan Brown's now joined us. G'day, Brownie.
Good to be here, Joey. Funny stuff off the top. Duck told a joke that everybody laughed at for a change, which was really good. So always good to be here.
Good. Looking forward to joining you. But we've got a man on the line. I tell you what, yesterday the Adelaide Crows, they had one of the wins of the season. And this bloke has been instrumental since his return in the big win yesterday at Ballarat.
Long one looking for the Tex, and here he is. Just gets rid of his man with his huge, great big ass outside of the boot sausage. And Tex gets his first.
Going for goal, number 500, Tex.
He's gone back a long way here, Texan. What's he got for us? 500. He has just got it through. All right, so they've had multiple shots here, Adelaide. This is pretty much all of them.
Not a bad pocket to kick it from, probably.
Hard at the left post.
Have a look at Texan. Kick underway.
Oh, it's kicked out.
He has absolutely split the middle. Texan, there's your siren. Adelaide have grabbed the win out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
That is good winning for Matty Nix and the Adelaide Crows.
Not a bad day for Taylor Walker. Kicked his 500th career goal. He kicks the match winner. They win by a point, but most importantly, Bernie Vince gave him the 3 votes for
Was
Triple
that
M.
Bernie talking all over the top of JB
He's
as
been
well?
doing that a lot, Bernie Vince, lately. Talking
It's
over
all
the top
about Bernie, isn't
at
it?
the moment. But the man is on the line. Thanks for joining us, Tex. How does it feel the day after?
Oh, I'm pretty sore, boys. Very sore. You know, it's a bit like that when you get a little bit older, but when you get the 4 points, it does sweeten it a little bit. So, yeah, back in Adelaide today and with 4 points in our pocket, which is very pleasing.
Hey, Tex, well done on your form, mate. Been fantastic. Tell me, you just said you're sore now. Just going into the game, just at the start of the game, and by the way, it ended up having a ripper. I love the fact that you're getting plenty of the ball. It's not about the goals, but you're winning a lot of the ball. And setting up goals as well. But how was your body going in? Because I thought you looked a little bit sore at the start.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit older, Duck, to be honest. So I was a little bit sore. Obviously, you haven't played any games for about 8 months, and that was my 3rd game back. So I was a little bit sore, just general soreness, but I found my feet in the second half and was able to hit the scoreboard, which was nice.
Tex, what's been the turnaround last year and this year? Because the year before that, like, you were paddling, really. Like, you were just going. And then, like, just to the eye, it looked like you come back leaner and fitter off that summer, like 2 summers ago. Is that just wishful thinking, or you did something different and you're a bit lighter? What was it?
Oh, geez, I love honesty. No, I've said this numerous times now. COVID for our footy club was a blessing because we were so young. We were able to train together over the off season, and I was able to do that really consistently. I had a bit of knee soreness probably 3 years ago, which I tried to battle through, and we all know that it's pretty hard to do that. So I just got my body really healthy, got a little bit smarter, and started listening to my body a little bit. So that just allowed me to have a good off season with all the young kids and allowed us to have a healthy pre-season, and now it's set us up for a good season.
Tex, Riley O'Brien yesterday come up. Obviously, Tim English wasn't in there, and they had the ruck work he put in yesterday. It was a game that he had to dominate, and I thought it was a game that he dominated for the clearances for you guys. Plus 15 in the inside 50s when disposals were about even meant that his ruck work was outstanding.
Oh, yeah, I thought he was outstanding yesterday, Rob. The other thing I thought he did really well was his marking around the ground. He probably hasn't marked it that well this year, so he was awesome for us. And, you know, if you go down back, I thought Tom Duday, Billy Frampton and Jordan Butts did a great job on Aaron Norton. So across the board, our bigs played really well, and it got us the job done in the end.
Tex, congratulations on that goal. Obviously a delayed start to the season. Could that be a blessing in disguise from a contract perspective in terms of might help you go on perhaps again next year? I think you're out this year, but obviously you're going to have a shorter season. So could that perhaps help you go on an extra year?
Oh, who knows, mate? It's only round 6. How about we let the water go under the bridge, and we'll cross that when we get to the end of the year.
Hey, what about the team as a whole? I mean, it's been a bit of a surprise to a lot of us in the media, the way that the boys are playing. From your perspective, what's been the biggest area of improvement from last season?
Oh, I think we've improved in all facets.
Yeah.
Like, you know, attack's been awesome. I think our team defence has been really sound. And like yesterday, we know Bulldogs like an uncontested game. So our ability to just drag it back into a contested style game allowed us to win yesterday. So we've been able to take it up with teams like Essendon, who love it open and free-flowing as well. So we've been able to do that with them. And then yesterday we were able to bring it back into the trenches and make it a contested game, which I think has been very pleasing for our young group who's maturing as the days go on.
Dex, there's a lot of people talking about Rochelle and how good this kid could be. Tell us something about him that we don't know, and will he be as good as what everyone's saying?
Don't worry about how good he is on field, Duck. He's pretty good off field too, the young fella.
Good on him. Good on him.
He's going to be a star. I honestly feel like I've played 200 games with him. He's that mature. He works hard, and yeah, I love playing with him. I've only played 3 games with him, but he's been outstanding to date. So.
And Matty Nix, young coach, 2-team town, enormous pressure, proud club. From the outside, he just stayed calm, emotionally level. What are his great attributes, Tex?
I think he's doing a great job, and a lot of credit should go to our assistant coaches as well. And James Raleigh, who's doing our forward group, Scott Burns, who's doing the backs, and Nathan Van Berlo, who's doing the midfield. Like they're all chipping in and doing their thing, and they just drive high standards, and that's what we expect with our young group, and they make it crystal clear on exactly what we want to do.
Hey, big game next week, Tex. You got the GWS Giants Adelaide Oval on a Saturday afternoon. Just hope to keep the form rolling. It's been impressive. I know you're not going to say you're talking about finals, but anything possible for this group?
Oh, who knows? That's the first time in a couple of years we've won 2 in a row, so it'd be nice to make it 3 in a row. And who knows, mate? We're doing some good work on the training track, and we're starting to see it in games. So anything's possible for our young group later on in the season.
Tex, the development across the board, I think, this year for your players has been good. You're not relying on one player to get 40 or one player to kick 8. I mean, guys like Schoenberg, Scholl, they keep stepping up. Obviously, Himmelberg in the forward half. So you're getting performances from pretty much everybody without anybody being amazingly outstanding.
Yeah, Scholl was pretty good on the weekend, wasn't he, Browny?
He certainly was. Yeah, I like the way he's sharp, kicked a couple, uses the ball well.
He didn't play.
Oh, sorry, mate. I'm looking back at the Port game. I thought I had the wrong stats up. I'm like, geez, Scholl had a good game. He's at 24 and kicked a goal.
Tex, can we talk about someone that did play?
Scholl played.
Can we talk about keys, like the inside bull? I'm not sure that he went to Bontempelli and
Scholl played.
Oh, did he? Jesus, it's been a big night, Tex. Can we get back to keys, though?
Schoenberg.
Oh, you're talking about Schoenberg or Scholl?
Yeah, I don't think I said Schoenberg, did I? I just said Scholl. And Himmelberg, not Schoenberg. I said Himmelberg.
All good. No, Ross, to answer your question, he's been outstanding for our footy club, Casey. It's just amazing what happens when people get opportunities elsewhere, he's taken it with both hands. And I'd nearly put him up there with the best two-way runner midfielder in the competition at the moment. He's doing everything on the defensive end, and he's getting a fair bit of the ball in the offensive. So he's been outstanding for our footy club and helping us stay in games. His stuff around the contest is outstanding as well. So he's having a good season, Casey.
Yeah, he should be in All-Australian contention at the moment. Tex, hey, thanks for your time, mate. Congratulations on your own form and the team's form. Hopefully you can keep it rolling for the rest of the season. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Good on you, boys.
Tex Walker there. Not bad.
You can't.
I love the confidence you say it with, Brownie, though. Because I was starting to feel guilty because I only watched the highlights of that game, right? And then Brownie hasn't watched it at all.
Darren Burgess going to Adelaide. Do you put anything down to that, Tom? Do you think it's made a difference?
Yeah,
Has to, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think the role of some of these fitness guys at the clubs is becoming more and more significant. I know that Nick Walsh down at St Kilda, I think, there's big raps around him in terms of the way they're playing, particularly their second halves this year. I think St Kilda, in their second half scoring differential this year, are plus 149 points.
And conversely, let's talk about GWS.
Well,
they're running machines who don't run anymore.
Well, that's where Nick Walsh used to come from. So I reckon there is a role for
Where's
these
Nick
fitness
Walsh
guys.
now?
Nick Walsh is now at St Kilda. Yeah.
Do you think they play a huge role, the head of fitness?
If you get...
If you get a dud
I wasn't going to say bad, but if you get someone that's not aligned with the coach and you don't do the work, the danger is they get too data dominated and too technical, and then the players start thinking about, if I hit this zone and then I'll stop, and you can't run more than that at training. It gets messy. So you need one. I think what Burgess does, because he was, and Russell, that was Hawthorn, they train the brain a bit. So they'll take them on 8K runs. They'll challenge them. They'll overload them. They'll play some mind games. But the real science-dominated ones can cause some problems.
And you know what else is the trick, and we all know this because we all played under them. I think their ability to get along with the players while you're being flogged.
Yes.
Like, so you have a healthy respect for them, even though at times
pre-season
you really dislike them when you're in your 10th 400 or something like that, and he says, righto, another 10. But you still like them afterwards.
Well, Dave Misson,
that's one of those tricky things.
Dave Misson, that was at the Swans, St Kilda to meet Melbourne, and you were under him, Joey. I never heard him really raise his voice. Very level, not dominated by data. I think he had the human side, and then he'll compliment himself with strength around him.
Yeah. Dave Butterfint was unbelievable when he went from North to Collingwood and they played in the
James Weber at Fremantle was fantastic.
Yeah, the ability to treat everyone fairly but not equally. You know, everyone's different. You've got to treat them all differently, individually, but also get the best out of everyone.
And with the restricted soft cap as well. They're almost like a fifth coach or a fifth mentor.
Welcome back to the Sunday Rub. North Melbourne up against Geelong from Blundstone Arena for McDonald's Ream Hot Water. Triple M Rocks Footy. Tom Brown's with us. Jay-Z's not. And Tom, you got some more news?
I'll start with the AFL broadcast deal. Gill's got that on his agenda amongst other things, including the pay deal this year and the Tasmanian decision. Sam McClure in The Age yesterday wrote extensively about the relationship between the broadcast deal and the pay deals because you need the broadcast money to pay for the players' wage increases, in particular, obviously, with the AFLW. But my information this weekend is that Gil McLachlan will lead an AFL delegation that I think includes Andrew Dillon and Travis Auld, and they'll go to Paramount, which is the parent company of Channel 10 in New York, in the next 10 days or so, and pitch the AFL's case to Paramount in a bid to get either, or for example, Paramount, but also even Disney and Amazon involved in this next stage of the broadcast deal. Clearly, Gil wants competition between Foxtel, which might float in the future and want the AFL, and Paramount, Disney and Amazon. But Gil is leading a delegation to New York in the next 10 days or so to go and visit the US bosses of Paramount, is my understanding.
So how would the AFL like, say in 2 years' time when the rights deal's up, how would they like it to look? So at the moment it's Channel 7 who do most of the games and Fox call 4 of their own games. So how would they like it to be? On a Thursday night, would they like one company be doing one, and then on Friday night it might be Channel 7, Saturday night it might be Fox? Because I'm led to believe Fox want to call all their own games with all their own people.
Brownie, the crux of it is the AFL to pay for all these, not demands, but things they've got to pay for, would like to see a 20 to 25% incremental revenue in the value of the broadcast deal. They're going to negotiate that in the next few months because they want to get the broadcast deal going forward locked away They know how much money's in the kitty, basically. What the AFL would like is there's obviously 4 games that have got to be on free-to-air television. So 7 currently have those. That's under the anti-siphoning rules and the government rules. You've got to have those on free-to-air. So the AFL would like then to perhaps get the digital rights and the streaming rights and then go and get some competition going between Foxtel and then, as I mentioned, those US broadcasters, Paramount, Disney and Amazon. The obvious problem is this. Amazon, for example, have about 80% penetration into households in the United States. Their penetration here is still less than 10%. So whether they're in a position to bid at this stage and make a big money play for what's still essentially a domestic sport, that's what Gill's going to
we
find
know
out.
they've got the coin.
If
they want it, they can have it.
And Paramount's got a big advantage because they've got Channel 10, which is free-to-air. So you get the streaming going and the free-to-air
Do you think
going.
7 want the responsibility of 4 free-to-air games? Or would they just like to buy and then carve off the Sunday game and the... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the broadcast, as far as 7's concerned, is a no-go zone for me, Ross, to be honest with you, because it's just so far above my head. But I'm
Come
sure...
on, mate. You're a news reporter. Have an opinion.
Well, I know that 7 has gone from roughly 10% 10 cent share price last year to about 80 cents now, so it's gone up 8-fold. And I'm sure that 7...
That's Channel 7 West
Channel
Media.
7. So I'm
That's
sure...
because they took over Boral.
Well, no, it's because they're also doing profitable broadcast deals and concentrating on things that make profit, and they've also got a very good relationship with the AFL. So I'm sure they'd want a big slice of the footy, but this is coming from me. You'd want to make sure it's profitable.
So the uplift, it was 420 million a year previously. So we're talking about getting to the table at 450, 500 a year potentially.
450 or 500. And the way Gill would want to do that clearly is to get the Americans involved, and Paramount would be their first port of call in New York because they've got Channel 10 too, so you get the streaming going and the free-to-air.
We're talking about where the money goes. Can we just represent the AFL PA here for a minute? Like, most overseas sports get 40% share of revenue, is that correct?
Yeah.
And the AFL's
At least.
AFLPA's at what?
And well, the
30,
AFL
35.
and the AFL men currently get 28%.
28.
Well, that's not. I understand the demands and we want to look after everyone, but the primary people putting on the show, if they're at 28%, that's a fight worth having if the AFLPA, aren't you? Like, if
It's a fight,
overseas
yeah.
sports are what, 40%?
40 up above.
And the AFL men are
Yeah.
28%.
The issue has always been that the AFL also fund all the grassroots football, where all the other sports, the NFL, the NBA, they don't funnel any
which
money
is
into
important.
community sports. So that's a bit of the
But
trade-off.
it'd be hard to
that's part of our
swallow for the
industry.
AFL men that then money's going to get carved off to the AFLW.
Well, that's another
What, it's
issue.
too hard in here to talk about it, boys?
No,
But
that's
that's
another
the
issue.
argument.
No,
The-
part
and
of
the
it.
argument goes that if you grow the pie, which is what you're talking about, going from 425
Then
to
they can
500
pay
million,
women more.
then you can pay the women
And it
more.
won't come
the
out of the
men-
men's pay.
Correct.
Is that the AFL? Is the AFL also saying, Tom, that the men should be giving a part of that to the AFL women?
No, that's not the current situation. I think the Players Association is of the view that the men should get 28% still, and that wouldn't come out of the men's pie.
Okay, so what you're saying is that they would remain the same then. So it would, if it was to go up.
The
You
discussion
still
at the
get
moment is about
revenue
growing the
share,
pie.
so you still get 28% of if it's 500 million. or
Yeah,
400
we
million,
understand if the
you still
pie
get
is
the-
bigger, you
yeah.
get a bit more, but
Yeah.
it's nowhere near 40%.
No, it's not. No, it's always been the issue for the AFL players.
What's Paul Marsh been quiet?
He's been quiet, but
Is
they
he
negotiated.
still
a good-
running the PA? I haven't heard from him for a long time.
How have the Players Association taken?
What's true?
Some
Have you
of
heard
these-
from
No, I
him,
haven't heard
Joey?
from- no.
Have you heard from him?
How have they taken some of these ideas on, Tom?
It's unclear because he hasn't spoken recently, Paul Marsh, but he's doing a good job in the background. Because Joe,
How do you
might have
know
been-
that if he's not talking?
Joe, you might have been involved in this deal. I'll get back to that, Ross. The Players Association negotiated last time an incremental increase on the revenue-based model, which saw the players under the current deal this year get an extra 20 million or so. So
They're
in
almost going to
fairness-
strike last time leading into these
and
deals.
they stuck with that. And because the COVID costs went up, but they negotiated the revenue deal, not the expense deal, Paul Marsh pulled off a bit of a masterstroke. And in fairness, probably doesn't get as much credit for that. Joe, you might have been involved in that as he should.
Yeah, it is complicated, but I suppose you've got to wait till we work out what the rights are before then the CBA can get done. So I think that's why Paul
And
Marsh
let me
is
come
probably
in, which
quiet
is
at the
I
moment.
have been reminded, and we understand the death in the family of Rodney, so I get that. But I'm talking over not a short period of time. Now, this has been going for a while. When we hear what the Duck got paid in the 90s, or the equivalent of, and you hear Lee Matthews say everything else has gone up 3,000% of the players, that's what I'm talking about. I think the players, the great players putting on a show, and all of them, and it's a short period, we want everyone taking care of the game, the grassroots, and we get all that. But at some point, there needs to be a shift for these players.
I agree with that. The other discussion is whether the past players, particularly with things like concussion and injury, and the AFL is trying to grapple with the concussion issue at the moment, but whether past players should also get a bigger percentage
Well,
of that pie.
that's another
Tom,
issue. That's gonna
where does
play.
the
Yeah, I'm with
assistant
that.
coaches sit at the moment? I know they had to slash a lot of the assistant coaches
Everyone
over
wants
the
a
last
piece.
2 years. So are there going to be more assistant coaches and the wages of assistant coaches? Because it's not a sexy position to be in at the moment, and the amount of, I guess, data they're having to put out. The senior coaches get a fair whack of it, Ross.
So they should. Probably
so
not enough.
Absolutely, they should. But the assistant coaches have been
No, they've been decimated. And we lost quality people
Lenny
out of
Hayes,
it. And it's a
case in point.
demanding job. It's a demanding job.
The AFL,
The game's under a lot of pressure.
The AFL's
to pay
working on a
people.
solution for that, Brownie, at the moment. Gil McLachlan proposed that half the senior coaches' wages were excluded from the soft cap. That got some pushback from some of the clubs, which I think was a bit of a surprise. But certainly Luke Beveridge has spoken about that again this week in terms of getting extra resources around Lockie Hunter. I know Damien Harbick's been speaking about it recently, as has Simon Goodwin, and some of the big clubs. Collingwood put it on record at the start of the year, as has West
Well,
Coast.
don't worry about the coaches' wages outside the cap. What about all the medical department? You know, the welfare of those people that you want to beef it up to help players with concussion and mental health and all those things. That money is the one that I think should be outside the soft cap. You should be spending as much money as you can on the resources for player welfare.
Well, you've got to look at the reason. The soft cap was brought in because of the arms race.
Yes.
And then the clubs with lesser revenue, they were on really assistance from the AFL, couldn't keep up. So really you're regulating excellence is the problem. That's really what we've done. We regulated excellence, and now the push is coming. There's a reason the Collingwoods and the Carltons want Brendan Gale to be the next CEO of the AFL, because they're big, powerful clubs. He comes from a powerful club, and the push is from those clubs, we got the money and we want to start spending it. We've had enough. That's my interpretation of it. Is that fair, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. They want to start not flexing their muscle, but just getting back closer to the position they were originally in.
Any other news, Tommy?
Yeah, I'll whip through some news. The AFL's looking at that timekeeper issue from Ballarat yesterday. At the moment, they lost 2 seconds on the ball being recalled. So I think the AFL's looking at whether that should be, I don't know what you do about that. Do you remove the bounce altogether, or do you, for example, start the clock when the first person touches it?
My view for a number of years is remove the bounce. I think I think we've gone past that. We want the best umpires. We don't want them to have to worry about bouncing the ball properly. We want decision makers. I've always been of the view, I don't think anybody's really going to care if we stop the bounces.
There's been good umpires miss out on grand finals because they can't bounce.
Which is
and
ridiculous.
when you're at training and you're in it, I used to walk into the, and you throw it up, the bodies, 8 bodies just go bang. It's powerful, let alone having your head down and backing out. It's not a safe situation.
The Bombers had a captain's run this morning. Stringer looked normal, according to my cameraman, Pat. I was in here, so I sent cameraman Pat
That's
out
good.
there.
He looked normal.
Zach Merritt trained away, according to Pat, from the main group. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that tomorrow. The Bombers say, Merritt.
He won't play then if he's trained away from the main group on captain's run. If he hasn't done any training yet, would you think, Ross? If it's captain's run day and he hasn't trained with the group and he's still away from the group, there's no chance he's playing. Yeah.
No chance.
Justin Martin back at Punt Road yesterday. I spoke to the Tigers a short time ago about when he'll be back on a full-time basis. They just said that he was in and out yesterday, had a chat to the boys, didn't do a great deal, but there's been no discussions or further discussions on when he'll be back there on a permanent basis. I'm still told he has to go to New Zealand to attend to his dad's personal matters as well. So maybe we'll get a better idea on the timing of all that this week.
Still a step forward.
Absolutely.
Fantastic
He's back
news.
in Melbourne, training, back at the club.
Let's get him back in there. We're not far away from full game mode. North Melbourne up against the Cats from Blundstone Arena. All the Anzac ceremonies to come up for McDonald's and Ream Hot Water. Triple M, Rocks Footy.
Now you can stream the footy wherever you go. Download the Listener app and select Triple M.